Nigel here. Did you know the wise time to relieve allergies is at night? With Xyzal. And who better to explain than a wise owl like me? Your allergies won't take a hint when you're tired and ready for bed. Don't suffer the symptoms that bother your sleep. Take Xyzal 24-hour instead. It starts working fast and works while you sleep, so you finally get much needed rest. Then all the next day it's still going strong, so you can feel your best. Be wise, all. Take Xyzal at night. Use as directed. Starts working in 45 minutes.
This message comes from Greenlight. Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest, with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get started risk-free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
Hi everyone! Welcome to Living Well with Janet, where we explore different health and wellness topics to enrich our ever-evolving personal practices. I'm your host, Janet. Some healthy habits are more challenging to adopt than others. Eating your veggies, exercising regularly, maintaining a consistent sleep routine. These all may take a little bit of convincing and extra effort. But what if I told you that some more enjoyable activities, like having sex regularly, is also critical to your health? Here with me to talk about sex for health is Anna Lee, co-founder of Lioness, the women-led sexual health startup that built the world's first and only smart vibrator and app that lets you see and improve your orgasms. Anna was also a guest on the Asian Boss Girl podcast last year. You can check out episode 144, Let's Talk Orgasms with Lioness co-founder Anna Lee, to learn more about her very unique story and all the interesting work she and her company are doing in sexual health. Before we get started with our conversation with Anna, I'd like to share some interesting facts that I dug up about sex and health benefits. Firstly, did you know that having sex regularly benefits your immune system? According to Yvonne K. Fulbright, PhD, a sexual health expert, sexually active people take fewer sick days. And this is because sex gives you higher levels of what defends your body against germs, viruses, and other intruders. Did you know that sex is also good for your heart? Not just emotionally, but physically. Sex helps to keep your estrogen and testosterone levels in balance, which is important because having low levels of these hormones can lead to osteoporosis and heart disease. Additionally, sex lessens pain. According to Barry R. Komisarek, PhD, a distinguished service professor at Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, vaginal stimulation, even without orgasm, can block chronic back and leg pain. I did not know that. So that's really interesting to me. If you're someone who tends to get pretty painful period cramps, maybe try upping your masturbation routine, since the dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin your body produces during masturbation can put up a good fight against period cramps. Sex also burns about 5 calories per minute. Not only does it increase your heart rate for cardiovascular health, but it also uses various muscles. So, there's a little bit of strength building in there. And next, did you know that regular sex actually also improves a woman's bladder control? About 30% of women will experience incontinence at some point in their lives, meaning leaking urine by accident. Good sex is like a workout for your pelvic floor muscles, and a strong pelvic floor helps to avoid incontinence. Additionally, when you orgasm, the contractions in your muscles help to strengthen your pelvic floor. This diamond-shaped group of internal muscles that make up your pelvic floor work together to support our pelvic organs. This includes the vagina, uterus, bladder, and bowels. So if the pelvic floor muscles are weak, these organs can literally fall out of place, known as prolapse. Weak pelvic floor muscles are also associated with lower back and pelvic floor pain and constipation. So for all those reasons, you'd like a strong pelvic floor, and regular sex helps you get there. Next, regular sex also boosts your libido. So if you are someone who tends to struggle with a low sex drive, or maybe you're in a situation where you have a moderate sex drive and your partner has a very high sex drive, did you know that you can actually increase your libido or sex drive by having more sex? For women, Increased regularity of sex increases your vaginal lubrication, blood flow, and elasticity, all of which help make sex feel better and help you to crave it more. In fact, sex can also improve fertility and potentially protect you against endometriosis, or the growing of tissue outside of your uterus. Now, we're hearing all of these amazing physical benefits to having sex regularly or masturbating regularly. I also wanted to share that there are mental health benefits. Regular sex can also ease stress. Studies have found that being close to your partner can soothe stress and anxiety. Additionally, touching and hugging, whether that's with a partner or even by yourself, can release your body's natural feel-good hormone. And lastly, sexual arousal releases a brain chemical that increases your brain's pleasure and reward system. So for all these reasons and more, there are a lot of health benefits to regular sex and or masturbation. Now, let's get into our conversation with Anna Lee. So I'd love to welcome Anna Lee. Welcome back to the Asian Boss Girl feed and to the new mini show, Living Well with Janet. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's nice to see you again.
I know. Yeah. Anna has been traveling around and doing a lot of amazing speaking events. And I know that there's a lot that's happened in your work over the past year since we last spoke. But one of the things that I really loved about the work that you do and that you talked about was that you and your company and your team, you guys gather a lot of data, actually the largest data set, I believe, of female physiology during arousal and orgasm. And I was just wondering, like, since we last chatted, if there were any kind of like new developments or, you know, maybe some things that you found very powerful that you've learned recently about masturbation, whether that's like, focused on technique or a fact or a tip, anything in that realm.
Oh, that's a good question. So I would say the biggest thing that we just recently published was with Dr. Jim Faust in the Journal of Sexual Medicine. So we just published an abstract. We studied 54 women who participated in the study where they used the Linus vibrator. So one, it validated that the Linus is absolutely capturing an orgasm, just like in a research facility, how they would do it. But I think on top of that, the biggest thing that people have really gravitated towards was the fact that we have confirmed orgasm patterns. So every person during an orgasm, what we're measuring is pelvic floor contractions. So how the vagina or anal muscles squeeze and relax involuntarily. It's a really good indicator for arousal and orgasms. And we found that there's 3 patterns that could happen during an orgasm, which we call the ocean wave, the avalanche, and the volcano. The ocean wave being a very rhythmic pulsing, and then the avalanche starting very high in force, but then it pulses but goes down in force over time. And then the volcano being like a huge explosion of force. And so I think that's been the most exciting thing that like we've really just been able to publish, which has been a huge part of the efforts that we're trying to do, just getting as much research out there as possible. So I think that's kind of like the biggest one of like hoping people can maybe identify to one of the 3 patterns, or maybe they have a unique pattern that happens, and getting people kind of like exploring in that and feeling like, oh, I wonder what my pattern is.
Yeah. I definitely think that like masturbation can be a very contentious topic or it can be a little taboo. And if you're someone who maybe is like experiencing like maybe you're someone who doesn't really enjoy your sessions or finds it kind of foreign, I think any type of way where you can like identify patterns or relate to another group of people who have a similarity with you in that experience can make it a lot less intimidating.
Yes.
So I love that you and your team have that finding. And I'm wondering, is there anything in your research that you found about maybe the average amount of times that a woman masturbates in a week, and also maybe like what is the length of time of an average masturbation session?
Yeah, I think the funniest thing is the question we get the most often, aside from, am I normal? These are things are happening. Is this normal? I think the other thing is people always want to know where they land in the range of averages of everyone else. Because I think it goes back to the question of like, am I in the normal, quote unquote, normal range?
Right.
And I would say like, so we do have averages, but and I will say like, so the length of an average masturbation session using our Linus is about 6 minutes and 40 seconds. But the cool thing about this fact is that the ranges that we've seen is anywhere from like 10 seconds to 4 hours and 4.64 hours. So it's just
Wow.
such a broad range. And so we
Yeah,
always tell
yeah.
people like, I think the beauty of what we've seen in our data and the averages we've seen is like an average is an average, but at the same time, you just see such broad ranges of people
Yeah, yeah.
exploring in different ways. And so, like, even the average amount of times, like how many times does someone masturbate in a week? I think it goes from anywhere from like one to maybe it averages to like point something to anything from to that to like 20 or 30. So it
Yeah.
just totally depends on the person. And I think that's kind of the exciting part because I always tell people like it's all ranges. Like I think
Yeah.
whatever works for you is what's working for you.
Yeah. And is there anything about like how many times a week on average women masturbate?
Like how many times a week? I think so. It will boil down to about twice a week. But I
Oh.
mean, for me too, like some weeks I'll go like every single day or like sometimes
Yeah.
twice a day, depending on how much free time I have.
Yeah. What your
So
schedule allows. Yeah.
what my schedule allows. And sometimes, so I think it's also a broad range, but probably boils down to about twice a week.
Okay.
And then also to note, like I think for partnered sex, there has been research done in the previous that's been published that the average like golden time for like how long you should be having partnered sex is about 30 to 60 minutes. And this is
Oh.
including penetrative sex, but also including like the foreplay and all of that
Yeah.
too. But so yeah, even that for masturbation is such a broad, different range too.
Yeah, yeah, that is really interesting. I think it's helpful for people to have an anchoring of like some sort of average, but then to have peace of mind to know like if you have a different range and even one person, depending on the week it is or the period in your life, you might have shifts and changes.
Totally.
So yeah, but something good to note is that if the average time is 6.5 minutes. That is very easily like a coffee break or like
Yeah.
or like a bathroom break. So especially with the focus of this episode is I really want to share some of the maybe lesser known like health benefits of masturbation and of sex. And so it's good to know in today's day and the periods of our lives where things can get busy that it's possible to gain a lot of these benefits in not very much time. So yeah, I did a bit of research and I learned that some of the health benefits to sex and masturbation, and particularly when you orgasm, include one, blocking pain. I didn't know this, but orgasms actually release a hormone that helps raise your pain threshold. And number two, orgasming also helps with healthier skin and nail production. So because orgasms increase your body's estrogen levels, which are known to help with healthier looking skin and hair, and that's according to the Journal of Sexual Medicine. And a third interesting fact that I found is that it actually improves sleep as well, because norepinephrine and serotonin, which are released during orgasm, help your body get into your REM cycles better, which makes your rest more restful. So based off of this, I'm wondering if you have any tips for achieving orgasm with a partner, either with or without a vibrator.
Oh, okay. So I think some tips. Honestly, I think the tips that I usually tell people, it goes all the way back to kind of like step one is definitely understanding like what works for you and what doesn't work for you and what things make you feel good. I think it goes beyond sexual good. I just mean like
Mm,
feel good about your body. And I think number one thing is feeling safe in your own body.
mm,
And so a lot of times I think when we talk about like how do I get to an orgasm, there's like it feels like we're trying to achieve a goal with a partner and things like that. But I think it goes back to, well, what makes you feel safe and comfortable to even feel aroused in your own body? It's things like taking a bath.
mm,
Is it like feeling like you've had a really good day or being able to decompress for the day? So I think it's little things like that. I always tell people is the first steps to really feeling in touch with your own body. And then I think it goes into things like, well, what are things that could turn you on? Is there videos that turn you on? Some audio? Is it imagination? Is it books? Like all these things that kind of get your, I think, arousal stimulated, I think is like a great
mm,
place. And then I think people will say this over and over again, but I can't help emphasize it enough is communication is such a huge thing. And I
mm,
think you can definitely make it fun, like being like, oh, what are some things that turn you on and being able to talk to your partner about that. So it's definitely like figuring out ways to feel sexy
mm.
and having those conversations and not having to feel shame around it. So I would say the number one thing that'll make you best to an orgasm. If you're a person with a vulva and has a clitoris, obviously the clitoris is amazing, but also I think it's things like communication and just feeling good about your own body.
Yeah, that is a great tip. I think it definitely comes down to so much of sex is like mental as well. And so being able to achieve a good state of mind is just as important as any like tips for physical stimulation.
Yes.
How about, so that's great to know about kind of communication and feeling good in your body with a partner. But if you're by yourself and you're masturbating, do you have any tips for women in terms of achieving orgasm?
So I would say, I mean, I can say like what I think works for me, but also I think it goes into things that kind of stimulate your arousal. So I think the reason why people need 30 to 60 minutes of like the golden time with partnered sex, but I think it's general to make sure that you're aroused. So if we're talking about people with vulvas, especially when we talk about the clitoris, what we see that's visible is just the clitoris glands. And the clitoris is actually an entire internal structure as well. And it engorges just like a penis would during arousal. And so the huge point I would make is like finding ways to be aroused to get that clitoris as engorged as possible in some way. Engorge is not a sexy word, is it? But so I think it's finding ways to stimulate, whether it's, putting vibration onto the clitoris directly. Some people find that too intense, so putting it around the clitoris or like near, but not directly on top. But I think it's finding the sensation that makes that basically the clitoris as engorged as possible. So I would say that's kind of your biggest one. And then whether it's toys or anything, like figuring out what stimulation feels good. Like some people really like the kind of like the tongue flicking stimulation, or whether it's like a suction stimulation. Some people like kind of like circular motion by the fingers or whatever the case may be. I think it's figuring out what that sensation feels good, and then feel free to like explore as much as possible. And then I think my last thing is to make sure like an orgasm is nice and it's something fun to talk about. And obviously we talk about it a lot at our company as well. But I think the big thing is, the orgasm is not the end goal, and it doesn't have to feel like a pressured thing of like, this is me succeeding or not. Sometimes it could just be like you're just feeling good and like having masturbation that's stimulating and just making you it's like almost a meditation in some ways. So I think it's definitely not putting too much pressure on yourself as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point, is like figuring out kind of like which of the three types of orgasm patterns that you might have. Also knowing which of the, types of stimulation do work better for you. And maybe the type that works better for you on yourself versus with a partner could be different. So I think that's a great tip and a great way to kind of explain to some of our listeners some of those different types of styles of stimulation.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is like a lot of sex therapists will also say like, keeping a sex journal is really great. I mean, I'm going to be honest to myself too. Like, I don't always like masturbate or have sex and then I don't turn around and like, dear diary, like the things that have worked for me and these are the things that didn't. But I would say if you can take the time every now and then to feel mindful of like, well, these are the things that like really turned me on at this point, or these are the things that worked, or like, oh, I might not be able to really get into the mood because I'm distracted by this thing, or this thing is stressing me out. Like, I actually like to take those moments of being like, oh, this really stressed me out and I think I'm really stressed, and I think it's maybe affecting me being able to feel pleasurable with my own body. And I think that's kind of a nice like touch point as well, like kind of being mindful of your own pleasure as well.
Right. Okay, yeah, that's a great tip, is the same way that you journal to become more self-aware of your emotions and your thought patterns, being able to journal so that you become more aware of your arousal patterns, or what helps you in terms of increasing intimacy and stimulation. Very good tips.
Yes.
This episode is brought to you by the Toyota Grand Highlander. From daily routines to life-changing adventures, the Toyota Grand Highlander is spacious, powerful, and ready to take on life's grand challenges. Advanced safety features and innovative technology give you confidence for whatever life throws at you. And it's available in a hybrid Nightshade Special Edition, which includes sophisticated gloss black exterior accents and 20-inch black alloy wheels. Learn more at toyota.com/Grand Highlander. Toyota, let's go places.
So back to using vibrators with partners during partnered sex. Is there any information that you've learned on maybe popular ways that women will use vibrators during sex with a partner? So we know that, one possibility is using the vibrator for external clitoral stimulation during penetration with your partner, or maybe it's using it vaginally and your partner is, performing anal sex. Or is there anything you found that's like interesting in terms of how people use vibrators in partnered sex?
I would say, honestly, again, it goes into like all ranges of how people use it. But I would say most commonly people use like a clitoral stimulator, while if it's a like penis in vagina sex, it's basically like using a clitoral stimulator while the other person is penetrating vaginally. And so that's kind of the most common one we've seen people will do so that they get that stimulation in the clitoris. Also, the interesting thing that I love to see is actually people even going into sex toy shops or like online by themselves, like together, and then actually like looking through different toys and having a discussion of like, oh, I want to try this, or like putting things on wish lists together. I think that's even like a really sensual and kind of lighthearted way to like explore and have conversations of like even, I think even the conversation of, let's say, even like anal sex and being able to see the butt plugs and being like, oh, like that looks too scary, or like having that kind of lighthearted conversation around it. So I think even beyond in the bedroom and all like using a toy, I think the cool thing is seeing couples do like go online together, looking at toys, or going into a shop. And I think that's been really cool to see. We definitely have people that use it, and including myself, have used it like as double penetration toys. So having one toy inserted, whether vaginally, anally, and then having a penetrative sex on the opposite hole.
Yeah.
Is that the eloquent way of saying it?
Yeah. Because for people to know that there are, multiple holes down there. So
yes.
that you can stimulate. Yeah.
Yes. And there's definitely toys or even just vibration toys that can be used for like nipple play, or a person using the toy onto you, or you using the toy onto a person. I think there's so many broad ranges of like what you can try, and I think it's much up to imagination as long as both people are down.
Yeah. And you make a good point of like all the different varieties and not being afraid of that, because I think it can be easy for someone to be like, oh, well, like, I usually don't like this stuff, but you also don't know how your body might change. Because like for me personally, I used to not feel a lot of sensation on my nipples, but I've noticed that only in the last like year or two that's changed for me, and now that like stimulation becomes like more of an arousal point. So I love like encouraging people to kind of like continue exploring. Like once you find your thing, it doesn't mean that it's going to stay your thing forever,
Oh, yeah. I feel like my sexual preferences, like all things have changed over the years. And I think that's why for sometimes I'm like, oh, something I said 6 years ago, maybe not relevant now. But also just like the curiosity to explore and maybe re-explore things that I was like, oh, I'm not really into, but maybe now I'm like, oh, I might be down to try it. Or it might be a different partner that makes you open to trying those things, or like works with that person.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It could differ from partner to partner as well.
Yes.
So Anna, are there any toys or vibrators or resources beyond Lioness, which Lioness is amazing, and I would definitely encourage our users to go and check it out. But I guess just within the world of like sex shops, sex toys, vibrators, or even like social media accounts that you follow or whatever it is, are there any things that you particularly enjoy and you'd like to like recommend to people?
Oh, okay. So I would say this is one of those things I always had kind of my suite of toys, especially that I've been like, yes, these are the ones that I highly recommend, not even sponsored in any shape or form. But nowadays it's actually changed for me as well. But I'll kind of go through some of them. I always love telling people about it's called the Enjoy, like the letter N, Joy. There's other brands that do it, but it's like a stainless steel wand that looks like almost a C shape. And that's the one that if anyone had ever been curious about squirting, that one's the one that like helped me figure it out. It has no vibration. It's just the way that it's shaped is like a really like bulbous letter C.
Yeah.
And because it like curves enough to be able to hit where your Skene's glands are and your G-spot area, like I think that's kind of the toy that really made me figure out squirting.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a really big one that people always ask me about squirting stuff. So that's kind of like my go-to.
Yeah. It's cool that that's like also not battery operated. It's just like analog,
it's really
right?
pretty. It looks really, it's analog. It's very pretty.
Yeah.
And then I think there's another one called Jeju is a bullet. And I just really like the motor on it. It's really rumbly and it's like a deep vibration. So I found that helps me stimulate like the entire clitoris because it kind of the vibration kind of goes through, and that's a bullet vibrator. So if you're looking for something that's non-inserted. And then, so those are my kind of like two that I've always told people. But nowadays, actually, I've been like exploring things like massage oils. Like that's when I kind of like, I've been getting to more like the sensual stuff.
Yeah. Because there's also like scent involved, and there's texture and touch, and
touch, and like the texture of the oils, like which ones are too slippery, which ones are like. And so I've been kind of getting into massage oils, and then glass dildos and like glass butt plugs. They're super gorgeous, and there's something very sensual about when it's like really pretty and it's the texture of it. It's like a cold to the touch. I don't know. There's something very cool and and they're all handcrafted, which makes it kind of an extra element of fun. And so I think those two nowadays I've been like, I'm kind of like exploring this world of different sensations, because otherwise I've been such a vibrator power girl.
Right.
So aside from the Linus, I think those two. And then if I can shamelessly plug, we just made a couples card game. It's like a sexy couples card game. It was made by us as a team who are 3 sex educators and then a card game company. So there's different levels of prompts that will ask you questions as simple as like, what is your favorite comfort meal to ask your partner, and then also things like, wearing costumes during sex would turn me on, like asking those questions. And then there's fun prompts like grind your partner's name on their hips, like sit on your partner. So it goes into full levels, and I think that's been really fun to play with like partners and like get to know them in a fun but intimate way, and kind of removes like me being like, let me ask you 10 questions. And instead puts it in a game element.
That.
Yes.
I love that because I think as much as we want to encourage people to have conversations around it, it's always intimidating to have like serious conversations with your partner about anything. Like there is a level of weight to it. So if you can do it in the form of a game and you have guided questions, that is super helpful. I'm definitely going to check that out. That's great.
Yes. I definitely still sometimes blush from time to time. You know, when you're just like asking, it's still like a hard topic sometimes. So it's hopefully a nice way to like break the ice.
Yeah. Where can our listeners find either the card game or Lioness, and then also you online?
Yes, so all of our stuff for Linus and the card game will be on linus.io, and then all our social media is Linus Health, so Linus like a female lion, and then you can find me on Instagram at Anna is Average, and my TikTok is Anna the Average if you want like fun sex research topics that I've learned that I'm just trying to share with the world without TikTok trying to ban me.
Anna has some great like educational and very consumable and very like approachable content on sex. So I definitely recommend giving her a follow. Thank you so much, Anna, for being here with me today and having this conversation. I think it will benefit a lot of listeners, and I know for myself, I've learned a lot, and I have some things for homework that I'm going to go check out after this.
Yay! I'm excited. Thanks you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for listening to this episode of Living Well with Janet. If you're interested in checking out the Lioness Vibrator, their new card game, or just learning more, they have free sex guides focused on popular questions and topics on their website. You can visit lioness.io. We'll also link some of the toys and products Anna mentioned in this episode, along with resources on the health benefits of sex in our show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you would leave a cherry emoji in the comments of our IG post. Once again, this is your host, Janet, and this has been Living Well with Janet. I can also be found on Asian Boss Girl, the podcast for the modern-day Asian American woman, with my good friends Helen and Mel, who are also hosting their own shows, which you can catch on the same feed, new episodes every Tuesday. You can follow ABG on Instagram at Asian Boss Girl, and me, Janet, at Janet W. That's Janet, the word double, and the letter U.